All right. First and foremost, give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, HaKadosh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well and who's worthy to be counted for double honors. Peace and salutations to you brothers out there pushing this truth wholeheartedly and sincerely and full of the gospel. This is Brother Gabar here from the Indiana camp, coming back at you again with another sit down. I'm pretty sure you brothers are already hipped up to the news. So without further ado, we're just gonna hop straight into it.
1 week after the deadly strikes in Venezuela, tonight the State Department renewing calls for Americans to leave that country. And it comes as President Trump is now threatening to take military action against drug cartels inside Mexico. Here's ABC's senior White House correspondent, Selena Wang.
Tonight, the U.S. renewing their calls for
Also, fair use.
Americans to leave Venezuela immediately. Just 1 week after the dramatic nighttime raid capturing the country's president, Nicolas Maduro. The State Department alerting U.S. citizens to take precautions because of reports of groups of armed militias known as colectivos setting up roadblocks and searching vehicles for evidence of U.S. citizenship or support for the United States. Tensions running high on the streets of Venezuela this week as the government searches for anyone they believed helped the U.S. execute that raid. Reports of paramilitary groups vowing revenge and enforcing curfews in some neighborhoods. Trump now claims the U.S. is running Venezuela and says he canceled a second wave of attacks because of cooperation with the new leadership.
People ask about the second wave. I don't think it's going to be necessary. We have an armada.
Those comments come as the president ramps up his threats on Mexico, Greenland, and even Colombia. Tonight, Mexico's president is urging closer coordination.
Remember where it says right there on Greenland. Just keep that in mind.
With the U.S. after President Trump threatens land strikes on drug cartels that he claims are running Mexico.
Presidente Trump.
Sheinbaum warns U.S. military action in Mexico would be a grave violation of the country's sovereignty, while insisting her government has been dismantling drug labs and increasing enforcement.
We've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by water, and we are going to start now hitting land with regard to the cartels. The cartels are running Mexico. It's very, very sad to watch and see what's happened to that country.
And with President Trump is also escalating his threats to take Greenland from our NATO ally Denmark. When asked this week whether there's any limits to his power on the world stage, Trump said only his own morality, his mind, can stop him.
You see, man, this guy, man, this guy's running loose, man. All right, it's gonna be all hell out here, man. 2026 is ramping up to be a very good year. This might just be the year, man. It might just be the year. All right, I got one more video. We're going to get into the video.
Russia now threatens nuclear retaliation after the United States seized a Russian oil tanker at sea. What began as a sanctions enforcement.
See, and this happened by about a week ago. So this happened January 3rd. So this was like kind of before the whole Venezuela thing popping off. You see?
Operation is now triggering dangerous escalation between two nuclear powers. So what exactly happened, and how close is this to spiraling out of control? Let's break it down. On January 7th, 2026, U.S. forces, including Navy SEALs and the Coast Guard, boarded and seized a Russian-flagged oil tanker called Marinera, about 190 miles south of Iceland in the North Atlantic Ocean. This wasn't a sudden move. The tanker had been under pursuit for nearly 2 weeks. Back on December 21st, in the Caribbean Sea, the ship evaded an initial U.S. boarding attempt while heading to load sanctioned Venezuelan oil. According to U.S. officials, this ship was part of a so-called shadow fleet, vessels accused of secretly moving oil for Russia, Iran, and Venezuela in violation of U.S. sanctions. During the chase, the tanker allegedly changed its name, flag, and registration, a classic tactic to avoid capture. By the time U.S. forces boarded it, the ship was empty, but the message was already clear. At the same time, the U.S. also seized another tanker, the Sophia, in the Caribbean, described as stateless and linked to Chinese operators. Here's where things get more dangerous. During the operation, Russian naval assets, including a submarine and surface vessels, were in the same area, escorting the tanker. Russia had formally asked the U.S. to stop the pursuit. Washington refused. U.S. European Command says there was no direct confrontation, but the proximity alone raised alarms. The crew, which includes Russian nationals, was detained. Russia claims they were taken hostages. The U.S. says this is a lawful detention with possible criminal charges for sanctions evasion. Moscow's response was immediate and explosive. Senior Russian lawmakers called the seizure piracy, an attack on Russian sovereignty. One official openly suggested torpedoing U.S. ships and evoked Russia's nuclear doctrine, which allows nuclear use if sovereignty is threatened. So far, no military retaliation has happened, but the rhetoric alone is enough to rattle global nerves. This incident doesn't exist in isolation. It comes amid war in Ukraine, tightening U.S. sanctions on Russian energy, and a major shift in Venezuela. Just days earlier, the U.S. captured Nicolas Maduro, installed an interim government, and demanded Venezuela cut ties with Russia, China, Iran, and Cuba. Venezuela has now agreed to sell tens of millions of barrels of oil to the U.S., with Washington controlling the sales. China has called this economic bullying. The big question now, will Russia move beyond words? Or will diplomacy step in before a single miscalculation turns a tanker seizure into a global crisis?
Yeah, man, and the answer to all of this, man, is just basically, man, things are finna start ramping up. And matter of fact, let me go ahead and just get it. I'm gonna get it. This is Zephaniah chapter 3 and verse 8. I'm gonna read it in KJV, then I'm gonna get it in the Amplified version. It says, therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them my indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. All right. Now the Amplified version says, therefore, it says, you of the godly remained of Judah, patiently wait for me, declares the Lord. Wait for the day that I rise up as a witness against the nations. It says, for it is my decision and my right to gather the nations, to assemble kingdoms, to pour out on them my indignation, all the heat of my burning anger, and in that day all the earth shall be consumed by the fire of my zeal. You see, so the reason why all this World War III is in talking, countries are seeming like they're gearing up to go against America. America's being that big bully on the earth, is because what the Lord's determination is to bring everybody into war against America. All right, one big World War III as the Book of Revelation says. Matter of fact, I have that right here. This is Revelation chapter 11 and verse 14. It says, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. You see, now in the 9th chapter, it talks about, it says one woe has passed, and there's two more woes that cometh hereafter. All right, now these woes are talking about world wars. You see, so in the 9th chapter, what one woe has passed, and then there's come two more. It's talking about what World War II and World War III. You see, but now we've already passed over into World War III. I passed over into World War II. Now we're on the brink of World War III, which World War II wasn't really that long ago. Matter of fact, I'm gonna ask chat. Again, you're not gonna be able to see chat because I'm only recording my window, so chat pops up in its own separate window, so you're not gonna be able to see it. But let me just What the fuck? Why is it not working? Oh my God. You know what? I'm just using it on my phone because it's not working on my laptop. All right. Yeah, so it says World War II ended in 1945. As of 2026, it says that was about 81 years ago. You see, so 81. Yep. So it began. Well, if you're counting from when it began in 1939, it started about 87 years ago. So right. So it started about 87 years ago, and right now it ended about 81 years ago. So there's people. Technically, there's still people alive that has seen World War II. You know, let's say you were what? It's 81 years ago. Let's say that you were 5. You know, that means you would be 86 today. You know, and there's still people that were what? What is it? What I'm trying to say? There's still people that were born, that were around. That's still 86 today. There's some still people that's here that's 90. You see? So these people, they know, you know, they've seen World War II. All right. So that's why in here it says what? The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Because what? 81 years ago isn't a long time. That's about what? Maybe 2 generations. You see? And now let me see. How far apart was World War I for World War II. And see, and look, in World War II, between World War I and World War II was even faster. See, World War I happened in 1918, and then World War II began in 1939. So that's only a 21 year difference between both of them. So here you got World War I happened, and then 21 years later, what? World War II happened, and then what? 81 years later, World War III is about to happen. You see? So what, man? All these talks of war. Trump is just trying to invade everywhere. This is all happening because what? It's the Lord's determination to gather the nations to basically what brings sword judgment upon them. You see, that's what the Lord is gearing up for. Scripture says what in the book of Ecclesiastes says what? It's a time for peace and then it's a time for war. But right now we're in the time of war. All right. Because what? Because we're at the end of the so-called white man Esau Edom's kingdom. All right. So now we're getting ready for that mountain of troops to happen, Armageddon. All right, as the scriptures calls it, man. All right, that's why things are so disoriented, you know. And this is another reason how you know that the people that's over there in the land of Israel aren't the real people. All right, because of why? Because what the scripture says, once the people gets back into that land, there won't be no more war there won't be no more war. So if they're over there, then why is it still war happening? War is the number one topic of discussion, at least in 2026. All right. So what else do I have? Isaiah. Yeah, this is Isaiah chapter 54 verse 16. It says, "Behold, I created the smith that bloweth the coals and the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work." It says, "And I have created the waster to destroy." It says, "No, yeah, man. So what, man? Ultimately, what? The Lord was the one who gave the knowledge to create the thermonuclear missile. You see, when he gave Oppenheimer and then them German scientists to bring forth that instrument of cruelty, he was ultimately he's creating this to what it can be used against you. All right. That's why it says what in Book of Revelations, the 17th chapter, it says what the 10 horns shall hate the whore. All right. And they're going to use that thermonuclear capability to ultimately destroy this place. All right. Let me read it in the Amplified. Let's see what the Amplified is. It says, verse 16, Amplified, it says, listen carefully. I have created the smith who blows on the fire of coals and who have produced a weapon for its purpose. And I have created the destroyer to afflict ruin. You see? And that's why what the Lord has created. That's why the Lord had given that, has given that knowledge out. So ultimately what? So he can use it against you. And rightfully so. Because the scripture says what? Because thou hast not hated blood, blood shall pursue thee. You see? Because your answer is always goes back to that sword. If somebody's not doing what you want to do, what you gonna do? You're gonna end up you're gonna invade their country, you're gonna rob, you're gonna pillage it, and then you eventually gonna threaten them with thermonuclear capability. But see, now you're not the only one with that. All right, you seen how he did with recently with Venezuela, and this is how he's always been. You know, he's always been like that. All right, you seen how he was with Afghanistan and Iraq. A few years ago, right around the Bush era. He's always had that, you do what I say, or I'm gonna nuke you, I'm gonna bomb you, I'm gonna send my troops over there and gun you down. He's always been that big bully of the earth. But the scripture says, what? How is the hammer of the whole earth? Yep, this is Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 23. It says, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Because what? The Lord is not using you anymore. He's using other nations to move upon you. That's how the hammer of the whole earth is cut asunder, which the hammer of the whole earth is America, because of their great military might. You see? So what? The Lord is not using that hammer anymore. He's using these other nations to eventually come against you. And once America gets destroyed, then guess what? It's going to be the Israelites' turn to rule. It's going to be our turn to come up in power. All right. Now I said, remember he's trying to invade Greenland. Now let's look up who is Greenland a part of. It says Greenland is a large semi-autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark. All right. And guess what Denmark is? Yes, Denmark is a founder member of NATO. It's one of the 10. You see? So when it says, and we're supposed to be allies with the NATO. America's supposed to be allies with NATO. So what the hell is Trump talking about moving on Denmark, which is part of one of your allies? This is Revelation chapter 17, verse 16. It says, and the 10 horns which saw us upon the beast shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and they shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. You see, in the 10 horns, what? Denmark is part of those 10 horns. All right. Well, back in this, back in this time, what the 10 horns consist of the Roman Empire's vassal states. All right. Which I don't know them off the top of my head, but it was part of the ancient Roman kingdom vassal states. But now that deadly one was healed, being revamped, NATO and the EU coming back, those 10 now is part of the 10, which is what? Denmark, was another one, Greece, Ireland, Italy, France, I want to say Luxembourg. You see? Yeah, so what? They are the founding members of the 10. All right, which there's more now. I think there's like 30 something, but the original the original founders are 10. All right, and Denmark was part of that 10. All right, so these 10 horns, what basically NATO and the EU, they're gonna hate the whore and they're eventually gonna turn on it. All right, matter of fact, let me grab that in Obadiah. This is Obadiah chapter 1 verse 7. It says, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to thy border. See, and what's a confederacy? People who's joined with you. You see, let me look this up right quick. I just had it. What the hell? Oh, here it is. It says confederacy. It says a league or alliance. You see, especially of a confederate states. All right. So what the men of confederacy, what people that's allies with you, have brought thee unto even the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee, and they have eaten thy bread and laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. You see, so what Denmark, being one of your allies, eventually is going to turn on you. You know, and not just Denmark, all the 10, they're eventually going to turn on you, and guess what they're going to do? They're going to destroy you. See, and the 10 horns which saweth upon the beef, they shall hate the whore and shall make her desolate and naked. All right. They're going to turn her back on you. They're going to destroy you. You see, let's read an amplified version. Obadiah chapter 1 verse 7. It says, and all the men allied with you shall send you on your way to the border. The men who were at peace with you shall deceive you and overpower you. Those who eat your bread, those you trust, shall set a hostile ambush for you. There is no understanding of it. You see? So what, man? The Lord has basically has put you in this trick bag. All right. He has put you in this trick bag, and now you're falling headlong into it. You're nose diving into it now. You know, and Trump is just the right man, just a proud demon, the proud devil to really issue in World War III. You know, he is the perfect puppet. He is the perfect fit for this place. You see, so all this happening, all this turmoil, and I think Iran right now is in protest. Let me see something right quick. I think I seen a little clip of it earlier, but I think Iran protest. 10 hours of Iran protest, death sentence, demolishers, superior leaders say, yep, Iran is in turmoil right now. Iran protests face serious consequences trying to throttle. Let's see what this is talking about. Fair use, by the way.
What if you can create your own website by saying, this is what I want? With Wix, you can.
Deepening unrest in Iran this Saturday night. What we're learning as the information blackout drags on, with open calls for regime change and more solidarity rallies here in Canada. ICE shootings fuel coast-to-coast protests in the U.S.
We refuse to accept this fascism.
The growing demonstration.
See, and that's another thing too. What ICE, people are against, and ICE is nothing but regular citizens basically taking the law into their own hands. All right, doesn't the scriptures talk about that? Well, they are sanctioned, by the government, saying, listen, if you see it, but basically ICE ICE members or police officers or whatever are just basically regular people who are who am I trying to say? Are regular people who are trying to, hold on. Let me actually look up. Yeah, they're basically, it says ICE members are people who work for ICE, which stands for U.S. Immigrant and Custom Enforcement. ICE is a federal law enforcement agency under the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. It says they include ICE agents, ERO, which means enforcement or removal operations, HSI, Homeland Security Investigations. It says which does in the simple enforces immigration laws, investigates cross-border. I'm typing in right now. Can anyone become an ICE member? because I actually seen a advertisement of becoming one. It says not anyone, but many people can apply if they meet the requirements to become an ICE immigrant and custom enforcement officer or agent. You're truly, it says, well, you have to be a United citizen. You have to be age of 21, have a valid driver's license, pass a background check and a drug test and a medical exam, pass a physical test, and be willing to carry a firearm. Education depends on the role. HIS has to have a bachelor's degree. ERO degree of qualified experience. Support role varies and may not require it. So really, basically, yeah, to be honest, anybody can become one, you know. Well, you have to be a U.S. citizen, you have to be age of 21, you have to have a valid driver's license, you have to pass a background check, a drug test, and a medical exam, you have to pass a physical test, and you'd be willing to carry a firearm. That's basically it. That's all you have to do is become an ICE agent, you see? So what? It's a lot of people who are against ICE, you know? Didn't a lady just die, a couple days ago? Try to run over an ICE a member? So, you know, and the scriptures talks about, and hey, the scriptures talks about that, man. You know, with Isaiah, what is it, 10:10 or 19:19? Let me see, can I grab real quick? It says, what Egyptian shall rise up against the Egyptian? You know, that's the you can use that as Russia coming against America. You can use your every average you can use your average American hating one another. Yep. Isaiah chapter 19 verse 2, it says, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight one another against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. All right. You see? And these Egyptians is talking about Americans. All right. Because Egyptian is a symbolic. Egypt is another symbol. What am I trying to say? Egypt is another symbolism of America. All right. So when it says Egyptian against the Egyptian, it's basically talking about an American against the American. All right. Which we're seeing that now. We're seeing different factions. We're seeing different groups. You know, you have what feminists versus mass. What's it called? What is it? What does them fucking females call it? You're misogynist. Oh, you got misogynist versus misandrious. You know, which misandry means men who hate women. You know, matter of fact, there's actually a group of men, you know, who dedicate their lives into hating women. You know, they don't want to marry them. They don't have children by them. You know, I forgot exactly what the group, but there was another group. I think it had over like 70,000 men talking about how much they despise women and shit. You know, so there's all type of different factions and groups out here that, you know, that's divided against one another. All right, and the scripture says what? A kingdom that's divided against itself cannot stand. You see, so all this stuff is happening, man. It's for our benefit. You see, it's for the destruction of America, the end of Esau Edom's society, and it's the upbringing of our society coming very soon. All right. So that's why when we see things like this happening, we get excited. We get happy. Let me watch some more. Let's watch a little bit more of this.
And the UN weighing in after this week's deadly incident in Minneapolis. A new look at what we eat. The warning labels now appearing on Canadian food products. Plus, listening beneath the surface.
We had no idea if we could tell those different species sounds apart.
How scientists are using sound to track and protect fish off of BC's coast.
All right, that's all I'm gonna get right there before they strike this video down for copyright infringement. But all right, man, I hope the video was edifying for you brothers out there. Until next time, shalom.